How does it feel to be a victim of police brutality? What does it mean when someone comes up and says they were profiled by the police? Well, consider this. Imagine getting pulled up on the street by the police. Do you have a driver's license? They asked. You provided your license and your car registration papers. Everything was in order. But instead of letting you be on your way now, the officer asks you to come down from your vehicle. And now he's demanding to see your phone. You innocently hand it over, but the expression on the officer's face says there's trouble. So you're using an iPhone, he asks. How did you get the money to buy this car and this iPhone? Where do you work? In fact, you're coming with us to the station. So many questions, but not a single second for you to respond. And now you're standing there, dumbfounded, trying to process what happened. But before you can get yourself together and say a word, you see yourself lying on the floor. They are now serving you slaps unprovoked, and then sticks, and then it happened. The loud bang of a gun. If you're lucky, you get to share your story. If not, it's a sad tragedy and a justice hashtag on X. Your only crime was that you were young, you had an iPhone, and drove a Mercedes Benz. 92 Nigerians were reportedly killed in 1 year between 2019 and 2020, including this woman's husband.
My husband said, please, I am late. I'm taking my wife and children to school. That me too, I will go to office, I'm late. Please allow me go. He now said, hey, you want to hit me? Am I the cause of the hold up? Why, if you want to hit me, my husband off the engine. After some time, my husband said, please, I am late. See, others are going, allow me to go. He said, hey, do you want to hit my husband up on the engine? He now used his leg and kicked the vehicle. Went round to where my husband was sitting, because I and my children, we sat at the back. Went to where my husband was sitting, started pulling my husband. Calm down, stupid civil defense. My husband was still on steering. I thought you would allow my husband. Then the other person came to join him. They started pulling my husband. The two of them were using batting. Now they are talking stick, using it on my husband's head, using it to beat him. One of them is Idoko. I now say, Idoko, you are an Idoma person. This is your brother. Why are you beating? Look, not because of me, but because of his children. Please allow him. I say he's not a criminal. He's a senior officer. He's a senior officer. He served with the civil. You are seeing him with the trouser and the shirt. You are still beating him. You know, like that. They started dragging my husband. That he take him to the station. They beat him. My baby was shouting, please don't kill my daddy. Please leave my daddy alone. They still continue. They beat him till death. They drag him on the floor to police station. They drag him. If you look at his leg, you see bruises, wounds everywhere. Nigerian police killed my husband. They killed my husband. They brutally killed my husband.
And then this happened. October 2020 was the moment Nigerians all over the world united against police brutality, corruption, and bad governance. It was a movement like no other. With over 28 million tweets on Twitter alone, young Nigerians were able to get the attention of the whole world. And then they presented these 5 demands. The immediate release of all those arrested during the protests. Justice and compensation for all who died through police brutality in Nigeria. An independent body set up within 10 days to investigate and prosecute all reports of police misconduct. The psychological evaluation and retraining of SARS operatives before they are deployed to any other police unit. And lastly, adequate increase in the salaries for officers of the Nigerian police force. But how can we ever forget the story of how it all ended on this night?
Shoot! Let them shoot, let them shoot. No problem! No problem! Everyone sit down.
However, one thing that didn't end was the brutality that got people out on the street in the first place. In March 2024, a lawyer called Olamide Timothy visited a police station to inquire about a client who was detained. While at the station, a police officer allegedly cautioned him that not all cases are handled by lawyers. But that was not all. This lawyer was reportedly beaten like a condemned criminal. In a similar case, another lawyer had visited a police station seeking the bail of his client, only to end up spending 2 nights in a cell with the said client. He would later be hospitalized as a result of the treatment he reportedly got while at the station. But lawyers are not the only ones getting beaten or harassed, getting detained for simply doing their jobs now. In fact, some would argue that doing any job that involves investigating anything could land you in jail these days. That seems to be the case of this guy.
I was in Lagos, going about my business, and then these men just jumped me. There were 5 in number, 4 men and 1 lady, all in mufti, and they said, "Oh, we're policemen." And the next thing, they brought out a piece of paper. It was like an arrest warrant, which had my name on it and had cybercrime. And they said they wanted to effect an arrest. And I said, fine, let me make a phone call, which is my right. I wasn't taken from my house, so there's nobody who could have known where I was being taken to. And they said, no, you cannot make a phone call. And I said, that's improper. I do not know where you want to take me to. You haven't told me what offense I committed. You just said cybercrime. And you want to take me away to an unknown destination. And these people kept insisting. They brandished a gun. One had a pistol, the other had an AK-47. And they were ready. They were making me understand that they could shoot me if I make a move.
That was the voice of Daniel Ojukwu, a reporter with Foundation for Investigative Journalism, who went missing for days without even a phone call to his loved ones. Now imagine the trauma of looking everywhere for your loved one, only to finally learn days later that he had been taken by law enforcement officers. No phone call, no lawyer, not even given the courtesy of being informed of his crimes. Well, that came days later. So, in a country plagued by unprecedented levels of insecurity, journalists are getting intimidated by the police. Young Nigerian citizens are getting profiled by the police. Citizens are getting thinly veiled threats from the police. Even lawyers are getting beaten by the police. But you know what's not getting solved by the police? That insecurity I mentioned earlier. Over 380 persons were kidnapped in Nigeria between December 1st, 2023 and January 3rd, 2024. In fact, the criminal economy of banditry has been so lucrative that the Nigerian Security Tracker recently revealed that more than 19,000 Nigerians were abducted in over 2,000 cases of kidnapping in the last 10 years alone. So, tell me, how are we doing this business of policing? Is it by going after journalists, making them out to be the bad guys for reporting on corruption? Is it by intimidating young Nigerians, profiling them because of their choice of dressing, or simply assuming that any young person driving a car or using an iPhone is a criminal? Is it by beating up lawyers who show up at the stations to work on their clients' cases? Now, don't get me wrong, the Nigerian police do the real work of keeping crimes low, arresting the bad guys and making the country safe for all of us. I just think that maybe, just maybe, we need to do more of that, while also considering the possibility of toning down the harassment, brutality, and intimidation. You get what I mean? But how can that be? How can we do that? How can we improve security in the country by making our police force more effective and not just out to get Nigerians? I came across something very interesting that is being proposed. There's a bill in the National Assembly I think we should all be interested in. That is the State Police Bill. The State Police Bill seeks to amend the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to pave the way for states to establish their own policing outfits. Interestingly, it already passed the second reading on February 20th, 2024. The federal government of Nigeria under President Bela is also taking steps to make this a reality. The government had, on February 15, 2024, constituted a committee which included governors to explore the possibility of creating the said state police. But hang on a second, isn't all this too familiar? We have a problem with security, and then the government introduces a new police outfit, then hires rogue officers to oppress the people the same way these armed robbers were doing back in the day. Isn't this how we ended up with SARS? Well, all this got me wondering, how does a state police make life better for the average Nigerian? There are lots of arguments highlighting the pros and cons of a state police unit. One report I came across stated the possible benefits of state police to include improved knowledge of local context, as officers recruited and trained locally could have a deeper understanding of the specific issues and needs of their environment. There is also the likelihood of increased accountability, as state governments would be directly responsible for police performance. This could potentially lead to some level of real oversight of law enforcement, something we don't have currently. And then there's closer ties between communities and their police force, which could help in building trust and cooperation, which in turn could improve crime prevention and detection. Above all, the federal government gets to wash its hands of the logistics involved in policing these communities. The burden on federal resources would be reduced because distributing policing responsibilities could free up federal resources for other national security concerns. Yeah, so these are the pros. So if the proposal is this rosy, what then is the problem? Well, if you live in Nigeria, then you must have realized that there is a potential for abuse of power. State governments could misuse police units for political or personal gain, undermining human rights and security in the process. If you've met an average Nigerian state governor, you will understand exactly what I mean. Also, ethnic tensions could intensify. As mentioned in our last episode, Nigerians are heavily divided along tribal and ethnic lines. And when it comes to power and some minor disputes, those ethnic divisions can lead to chaos. In such a scenario, how do you control a police unit that is already divided against itself? Will the policemen be used for keeping law and order then? Or to take sides and shoot down the perceived enemies of their ethnic groups? Now, speaking of financial and logistical challenges, stability and maintaining effective state police forces would require a lot of resources and logistical planning. You will agree with me that few Nigerian states can boast of resources and logistical planning for a task such as this. Also, there is concern regarding how to maintain national security and coordination in the absence of a united federal police force. Well, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, didn't hide his displeasure with the idea when he stated that Nigeria was not mature enough for a state police. He has cautioned that it will be open to abuse by state governors of the 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. The IG noted that rather than create state police, the challenges preventing effective policing in Nigeria should be addressed. Not everyone around the police force shares this sentiment though. The Minister of Police Affairs, Senator Ibrahim Gaidam, backed the establishment of state police. Gaidam said a more decentralized police force would help tackle rising insecurity in the country. However, some well-meaning Nigerians have called on the government to address the unrelenting welfare challenges of the central police before thinking of establishing a state police unit. The debate is still on, and it's going to take another year or so before we get anywhere with this bill. But as we get on the topic of fixing our terrible business of policing, I have just these three questions. How will state policing improve the current performance of the police and their perception by the people? Will state policing solve the problem of police brutality? Will our power-drunk governors have any sort of influence on this state police unit? Change is a good thing. And if we are finally getting ready to tear up the useless 1999 constitution, then bring it on. Let's rip it off and put something better down, something that works for every region. But while on the topic of change, we should really be careful what we wish for. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.